Last June, we were warned about the students in Freshman Assist. We were told that their life leading up to high school was drastically different than the experience that we as mentors had, but part of me doubted that. Our view of what we thought were similar lives was changed for the first time early on in the year when Lexi and I saw some of the Freshman Assist kids still walking home alone from school as it was beginning to get dark out. It was an eye-opener considering a ride home for my mom has always been a given since day one for me. This is when I realized that they haven't had the same family connections and privileges that I've grown up with throughout my life. Most of them probably didn't have a parent pressuring them to get all A's throughout elementary school, or one that wouldn't go a day without telling them how bright of a future they had. I know that the students have loving and caring parents who do all they can for their kids, but that still resulted in a different kind of lifestyle, one lacking in self-motivation.
According to a 2003 National Research Council report on motivation, upwards of 40% of high school students are chronically disengaged from school. Maybe these students believe they're too cool for school, that school doesn't matter, that school won't affect the rest of their life. Or maybe they're worried, scared, or don't think they're smart enough to succeed. But these students all have something in common. They lack the motivation to do well in school, the motivation to enjoy school. These students all have something that is holding them back, preventing them from expanding their intrinsic motivation. The motivation that one gets from doing something because they want to for themselves, not because they have to.
While nearly every high school student can be temporarily motivated through the use of extrinsic motivation, such as extra credit or being awarded a homework pass for receiving a certain grade, self-motivation is the primary source that drives success. However, a student can't motivate themselves overnight or just decide to turn their life around and strive to reach success. Becoming motivated takes more than a desire to improve, and there are several factors that can affect a student's motivation.
As the book Engaging Schools, Fostering High School Students' Motivation to Learn states, some students are motivated even under adverse circumstances, but for many students, their engagement and motivation to learn depends on a confluence of supports, none of which is sufficient on its own. Of these many supports that foster intrinsic motivation, the one that stands out the most at us is creating strong ties, linking schools with students, families, and communities. Throughout our experience so far in Freshman Assist, we've noticed that the root to many of the students' problems is due to the break in this link. The fact that many of these kids don't have families who put in extra time and effort to ensure that their children are succeeding academically.
Growing up only a couple of miles away, it was assumed that their lives would be similar to ours. We grew up in homes where our parents emphasized academics and were there with us every step of the way, ensuring we completed every worksheet, read every book, and studied for every test. There were always strong ties between our lives at home and our lives at school, and the motivation that our parents had for us to reach success was passed on to us. Our intrinsic motivation to succeed in our schoolwork started when we were young, and through the continued fostering of this motivation by our friends, families, and teachers, our self-motivation and goal setting became the driving force on our journey to success.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a well-known theory in psychology studies. The hierarchy shows the levels that one must have fulfilled in order to reach what Maslow considered complete happiness and satisfaction. We've noticed that the students lack in some parts of this hierarchy, mostly that of love and belongingness. It's likely that their inability to make connections with their family at home contributes to their lack of intrinsic motivation in their lives as well as in school.
These are the ties that we've noticed have to be strengthened in order to guide the kids towards reaching the overall goal of having their own intrinsic motivation. The way this is done will be differently for each student, but many of the kids don't seem to know what true success is like. Yes, they've all succeeded in some way or another, but many of them don't know what it's like to put a ton of effort towards something and get a positive result in return. So it might be best to strictly guide them through the process of studying for a test or maybe writing a paper that they're assigned. A large group of the students still don't know how much work goes into actually studying information or creating several drafts so their paper is just as perfect as it can be. If we get them to understand what success feels like, hopefully that will help the students reach their fullest potential.